Supreme Commander Krolak stood at the observation deck of the Xeraxian flagship Eternal Conquest, his iridescent scales reflecting the distant starlight. The expansion fleet's latest push into uncharted space had been suspiciously easy. Too easy. 20 star systems surveyed, 15 viable colonies established, and not a single hostile encounter. In 3 centuries of Xeraxian expansion, they had never experienced such smooth sailing. Supreme Commander, First Officer Telra's voice carried across the bridge, her crystalline antennae pulsing with concern. We've detected another anomaly in the Nexus 447 system. Krolak's inner eyelids flickered with interest. Show me. The holographic display materialized before them, showing yet another uninhabited system that should have been perfect for colonization. Like the others, it bore subtle signs that made his scales itch. Perfectly positioned asteroid fields that would serve as natural defense barriers, strategically placed gravitational anomalies that would force any approaching fleet into predictable channels, and trace elements suggesting the presence of automated defense systems that were currently dormant. Someone's been gardening these systems, Krolak muttered, using an old Xeraxian military term for strategic territorial preparation. The question is, who? And why haven't we seen them? The answer came 3 days later, in the form of a ghost. Supreme Commander. The sensor officer's scales had paled to a sickly yellow. Energy spike at coordinates 227 Mark 384. A shape appeared on their screens, resembling a tear in space itself. The vessel that emerged defied conventional design philosophy. A sleek, dark hull that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. No visible weapon ports, no apparent engine exhausts, just smooth curves that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Classification. Krolak demanded, all 4 hands gripping his command rail. Unknown, sir. Our sensors, they're having trouble maintaining a lock. It's as if the ship exists in multiple states simultaneously. Telra moved to her station, her antennae rigid with concentration. Sir, the vessel's power signature. It exceeds our entire fleet's combined output by several orders of magnitude. Yet it's containing most of it somehow, like a star trying to hide its light. Krolak had led the expansion fleet for 20 cycles, encountered dozens of species, and never felt the cold tendril of fear that now crept up his spine. This unknown ship wasn't broadcasting threats or demands. It was simply watching. Open a channel, he ordered, straightening his ceremonial cape. All frequencies. The response was immediate, yet unexpected. Instead of a video feed or audio transmission, their communications array received a simple text message in perfect Xeraxian script. Your expansion ends here. Before Krolak could respond, his tactical officer called out in alarm. Sir, the automated defense systems in the last 3 systems we passed, they're activating. The holographic display updated, showing the web of previously dormant satellites and platforms coming to life. The Xeraxian fleet hadn't just been allowed to enter this region. They'd been herded here, like prey being guided into a trap. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. The sensor officer's voice cracked. Same design as the first vessel, emerging at coordinates. Krolak didn't need to hear the rest. The tactical display told the story. 12 points of darkness appearing around his fleet, each one representing a ship that shouldn't exist by any known laws of physics. The text message updated. We are the silent service of the human confederacy. For 3,000 years, we have watched the darkness between stars. We have guarded the boundaries between what is known and what should remain hidden. Your empire has expanded far enough. Krolak felt his heart skip a beat. Humans. The name stirred something in his memory. Ancient reports dismissed as myths. Stories of ships that disappeared in certain sectors only to return decades later, their crews refusing to speak of what they'd encountered. Sir, Telra's voice was barely a whisper. The nearest human vessel. It's transmitting data. Star charts, sensor logs, patrol records. They've been watching us for centuries. Every system we thought we discovered. They were there first. Every space lane we mapped. They let us find, Krulax finished, the realization hitting him like a gravity wave. The Xeraxian Empire hadn't been expanding into unclaimed space. They had been expanding into a carefully maintained buffer zone, allowed to grow only as far as these humans deemed safe. Another message appeared. Your empire stands at a crossroads, Supreme Commander Krulax. What lies beyond this point cannot be faced alone. We offer you a choice. Retreat to your current borders and maintain the comfortable illusion of solitary dominance, or learn the truth about what lurks in the deep dark and why we maintain our vigilance. The lead human vessel, the Shadowkeeper, according to the identifier it now chose to broadcast, moved closer. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, revealing glimpses of weapon systems that made Krulax's scientific officer gasp in disbelief. The choice must be made now, the message continued. We detect dimensional rifts forming at the edge of this sector. The things we guard against have noticed our meeting, and they hunger for new knowledge, new civilizations to add to their collection. Krulax stood straighter, his military training warring with his pride. The Xeraxian Empire had never bowed to another power, never accepted limitations on their expansion. But as he watched the human vessels move into defensive formations with practiced grace, he realized this wasn't about submission. It was about survival. Send our response, he commanded, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Tell them we choose knowledge. As the words were transmitted, the Shadowkeeper's hull rippled again, ports opening to reveal chambers that glowed with impossible energies. The human ships moved to surround the Xeraxian fleet in a protective formation, their ancient guardianship about to be tested once more. Very well, came the reply. Lesson 1 begins now. Prepare your crews, Supreme Commander. What you are about to witness will reshape your understanding of the universe, assuming we survive the next few hours. The bridge of the Shadowkeeper was nothing like Krulax had imagined. As the first Xeraxian to ever set foot on a human vessel, he'd expected stark utilitarianism or overwhelming technological displays. Instead, he found himself in a space that felt almost organic, with surfaces that shifted and flowed like living metal, adapting to the crew's needs in real time. Captain Maya Chen stood before him, a small figure by Xeraxian standards. Her dark uniform bore no rank insignia, no medals, just subtle patterns that seemed to absorb light in impossible ways. Her eyes, though, they held the weight of centuries. Your empire's expansion was never random. Supreme Commander, Chen explained, gesturing to a three-dimensional star map that materialized between them. We guided you away from sectors where reality grows thin, where the barriers between dimensions wear down. Your people colonized the stable regions while we maintained the walls between existence and something else. The map zoomed in on their current position, showing writhing anomalies at the sector's edge that made Krulax's scientific training scream in protest. Space itself seemed to be unraveling. The dimensional rifts. First Officer Telra whispered, her antennae twitching. They're getting larger. Because they know we're here, a new voice added. A tall human male stepped forward, his dark skin contrasting with silver-white hair. Dr. Marcus Webb, Theoretical Physics Division. The entities on the other side. They feed on knowledge, on the exchange of information between species. First contact scenarios are like dinner bells to them. As if to emphasize his point, the ship's sensors screamed. The nearest rift had doubled in size, spawning geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. All vessels, battle stations, Chen commanded, her voice carrying across both human and Xeraxian communication channels. Commander Krulax, your fleet should fall back tow. With respect, Captain, Krulax interrupted, drawing himself up to his full height. The Xeraxian Empire does not retreat from battle. A ghost of a smile crossed Chen's face. No retreat necessary. But there are things your weapons can't hurt. Not yet, anyway. Lieutenant Rivera, begin the upgrade package transmission. A young human woman nodded, her fingers dancing across a console that seemed to anticipate her movements. Transmitting weapons modifications now. Their targeting systems will need recalibration to account for phase variance. But the ship shuddered. On the main display, the largest rift had birthed something that denied description. A mass of angles and curves that existed in more dimensions than Krelax could comprehend. "They're earlier than expected," Webb muttered, consulting a device on his wrist. "The barrier's degrading faster this time. They're learning." Chen moved to the center of the bridge, her presence somehow filling the space despite her small stature. "Supreme Commander, what you're about to see is why humanity chose to remain hidden for so long. Our first encounter with these entities cost us Earth, our homeworld. We've spent 3 millennia ensuring no other species pays that price." The Shadowkeeper's hull began to hum with power, sections of it becoming transparent to reveal the space outside. The other human ships had formed a precise geometric pattern around the Zeraxian fleet, their hulls pulsing with the same impossible energies. "Your weapons are upgraded," Rivera announced. "They won't do much damage, but they can help maintain the containment field. Follow the targeting solutions we're transmitting." More rifts were opening now, disgorging entities that made Krelax question everything he thought he knew about physics and biology. His fleet's sensors were going haywire, trying to classify things that existed in states of quantum uncertainty. "Watch and learn," Chen said quietly. "This is why we build our ships the way we do. This is why we hide in the shadows. And this is why your empire needs to understand what's really out there." The Shadowkeeper's weapon ports opened, revealing technology that seemed to bend reality itself. The human ships moved in perfect synchronization, their formation creating overlapping fields of distorted spacetime. "All ships, commence firing," Chen ordered. "Pattern Omega-7. Show our new allies how humanity fights the darkness." What followed would reshape Zeraxian military doctrine forever. The human vessels didn't just fire weapons. They rewrote the laws of physics in localized areas, creating bubbles where different rules applied. The entities, creatures of higher dimensions, found themselves suddenly constrained by 3-dimensional space, their impossible geometries forcibly simplified. Krelax watched in awe as his own fleet's weapons, modified by human technology, cut through beings that moments ago had seemed invincible. The combination of Zeraxian firepower and human reality warping technology was devastating. "They're retreating," Tellera reported, her voice filled with wonder. "The rifts are beginning to close." "Not retreating," Webb corrected grimly. "Regrouping. They'll be back, with new adaptations. They always come back." Chen turned to Krelax, her eyes holding both victory and mourning. "This was a small incursion, barely a scouting party. Now you understand why we've watched your expansion so carefully, why we maintain the buffer zones, why we need allies who understand what's really at stake." Krelax looked at his fleet's tactical display, noting how the human ships had protected his vessels while simultaneously showing them how to fight an enemy they never knew existed. His empire's pride urged him to reject this revelation, to maintain the fiction of Zeraxian supremacy. But 3 centuries of military experience told him something else. Humanity hadn't revealed themselves out of weakness, but out of necessity. "How long?" he asked. "How long have you been fighting this war alone?" "Since before your species left their homeworld," Chen replied. "But we can't hold the line forever. The enemy is evolving, adapting. We need new perspectives, new strategies. Your empire has achieved things with conventional technology that we never considered, too focused as we were on dimensional warfare." The implications hit Krelax like a gravity wave. Humanity hadn't reached out to submit to Zeraxian authority or to demand their submission. They were offering a genuine partnership, a sharing of knowledge that could benefit both species. As the last rifts sealed themselves, Chen gestured to the star map again. "Shall we discuss the real state of the galaxy, Supreme Commander? Your empire's expansion may be halted, but your growth, that's just beginning. the archive chamber aboard the Shadowkeeper defied Ziraxian understanding. Holographic displays showed thousands of years of human history, but not the sanitized version meant for historical records. This was the true story, humanity's desperate fight against forces that threatened the very fabric of reality. Earth wasn't just our homeworld, Dr. Webb explained, manipulating the displays with practiced gestures. It was our teacher. The entities first breached there, you see. We learned about dimensional warfare the hard way, watching our cities fold into impossible geometries, our oceans transform into windows to other realities. The holographic display showed a beautiful blue-green planet transforming into something that made Krelax's scientific mind recoil. Earth hadn't been destroyed. It had been transformed into something that no longer obeyed the conventional laws of physics. How did your species survive? Tellerra asked, her crystalline antenna vibrating with emotion. Captain Chen's face hardened. We adapted. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our warriors. It's our ability to look into the abyss and say no further. We took what we learned from the entities that stole our world and turned it against them. The display shifted, showing the evolution of human ships over the millennia. From crude vessels barely capable of interstellar flight to the reality-warping ships of the Silent Service, each design built on hard-learned lessons paid for in blood. Your empire isn't the first we've watched over, Chen continued. Throughout history, we guided dozens of species away from dimensional weak points, protected them from threats they couldn't comprehend. Some eventually became our allies. Others, she gestured, and new images appeared. Worlds transformed like Earth, civilizations twisted into forms that defied natural law. Those who didn't heed our warnings. Webb's voice was heavy. They became part of the entity's collection, living laboratories where the laws of physics are more like suggestions. Lieutenant Rivera's voice cut through the somber atmosphere. Captain, we're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations from the Nexus 447 system. The pattern matches the Arcturus incident. Chen's expression shifted to one of focused intensity. How long? Hours, maybe less. They're trying something new, using the quantum entanglement from our weapons fire to trace back to populated systems. Krelax felt his scales bristle. The Ziraxian colonies. All of them, Chen confirmed. The entities don't just want to breach our reality anymore. They want to understand how our alliance works, how different species can cooperate. That knowledge would help them adapt, evolve. The tactical display updated, showing probability curves that made Tellerra gasp. These calculations, the entities aren't just attacking. They're experimenting. Each incursion tests our responses, measures how we work together. Now you understand why we revealed ourselves, Webb said. Humanity's greatest victory wasn't surviving Earth's transformation. It was learning to trust, to share knowledge with other species despite the risks. The entities can't comprehend cooperation. It's their one weakness. Chen moved to the command center, her uniform rippling with embedded technology. Supreme Commander, we're about to show you something only our closest allies have ever seen. Lieutenant Rivera, initiate Protocol Omega. The Shadowkeeper's hull became transparent, revealing the true nature of the ship's construction. Layers of reality warping technology integrated with biological components, quantum computers that existed in multiple states simultaneously, and at the core, something that hurt to look at directly. A dimensional anchor, Webb explained, noting Krelax's reaction. Stolen from the entities during the Battle of Proxima. It lets us match their ability to manipulate reality, but at a cost. Every time we use it, we risk drawing their attention to nearby systems. Which is why we need your empire's help, Chen added. Your conventional technology, combined with our dimensional warfare capabilities, might be the key to fighting them without using the anchors. But first, we need to survive the next few hours. The ship's sensors blared warnings. In the Nexus 447 system, space itself was beginning to unravel. All hands, battle stations, Chen commanded. Commander Krelax, Your fleet's weapons have been fully integrated with our quantum field generators. What you're about to witness is why humanity has spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. The Shadowkeeper's dimensional anchor pulsed with power, sending ripples through nearby space-time. The other human ships moved into formation, their own anchors synchronizing to create a lattice of altered reality. Target the quantum fracture points, Rivera advised the Zeraxian fleet. Your weapons can't harm the entities directly, but you can disrupt their entry vectors. Force them to manifest where we want them. Krellax watched as his gunners coordinated with the human ships, decades of Zeraxian military doctrine, combining with millennia of human experience. The entities were emerging now, twisted geometries that shouldn't exist in normal space. But this time, they faced a unified defense. Remember, Chen's voice carried across all channels. We're not just fighting for our ships or our empires. We're fighting for every species that will ever look up at the stars and dream of reaching them. The entities want to make those dreams into nightmares. We're here to ensure that doesn't happen. As the battle began in earnest, Krellax finally understood the true price of knowledge. Humanity hadn't hidden themselves out of fear or weakness. They had sacrificed their very identity, becoming silent guardians of reality itself, all to ensure that other species could evolve without facing the horrors that had stolen their homeworld. The entities were coming, but this time, they would face humanity and the Zeraxian Empire standing together. And in that unity, perhaps, lay the key to victory. The Nexus 447 system erupted into chaos as reality itself began to tear apart. The combined human-Zeraxian fleet faced the largest dimensional incursion in recorded history, as if the entities had decided to commit their full strength to this encounter. Multiple breaches detected, Rivera announced, her hands dancing across the adaptive interface. They're using new penetration vectors, learning from our previous encounters. The tactical display showed dozens of rifts forming, each one larger than anything seen in the previous battle. The entities emerging from them seemed to have evolved, their impossible geometries now incorporating aspects of both human and Zeraxian technology. They're adapting faster than predicted, Webb warned, his instruments showing readings that shouldn't have been possible. The quantum resonance patterns suggest they're not just learning from our weapons, they're learning from our cooperation. Captain Chen's expression remained steady, but her eyes betrayed concern. Supreme Commander, your fleet needs to adjust formation. Pattern Delta 9. We'll create quantum corridors for your ships to maneuver through. Krellax didn't hesitate. 3 centuries of military pride meant nothing in the face of this threat. All Zeraxian vessels, execute Pattern Delta 9. Coordinate your weapons fire with the human quantum corridors. The space between the fleets transformed as the Shadowkeeper and its sister ships activated their dimensional anchors. Reality bent and folded, creating paths through space-time that the Zeraxian vessels could use to strike at the entity's vulnerable points. They're targeting the anchors, Webb reported, his screens showing cascading alerts. These entities, they've figured out our primary advantage. An entity larger than the others emerged from the largest rift, its form suggesting a twisted mirror of their combined fleet. Parts of it resembled corrupted Zeraxian design philosophies, while others pulsed with dark parodies of human dimensional technology. By the first light, Telra whispered, her crystalline form dimming with fear. They're not just learning from us. They're becoming us. No, Chen's voice cut through the growing dread. They're trying to understand us by mimicking us, but they can't replicate what really makes us strong. She turned to Krellax, her eyes blazing with determination. Your people's pride, your unwillingness to submit to any force that would constrain you. Combine that with humanity's adaptation to horror, our ability to face the impossible and find a way forward. That's what they can't copy. The massive entity sent out tendrils of warped space-time, trying to ensnare both fleets. 3 Zeraxian cruisers were caught in the effect, their hulls beginning to twist into impossible shapes. Shadowkeeper to all vessels, Chen commanded. Execute Protocol Prometheus. Divert all power to the quantum field generators. Supreme Commander, have your fleet target these coordinates precisely. We're about to show them why copying our technology isn't the same as understanding our spirit. The human ships moved into a new formation, their dimensional anchors pulsing in perfect synchronization. The Shadowkeeper led the maneuver, its hull becoming almost transparent as reality-warping energies coursed through it. What we're about to do, Webb explained quickly, has only been attempted in theoretical models. We're going to create a quantum resonance cascade, using your weapons as focal points. The entities think they understand our technology. Let's show them what happens when human ingenuity meets Xeraxian precision. Krulax understood. His fleet's conventional weapons, enhanced by human quantum technology, would create a web of intersecting energy patterns. The human ships would then use their dimensional anchors to twist those patterns into something the entities couldn't predict or adapt to. All Xeraxian vessels, he commanded, target designated coordinates. Maximum power to forward batteries. Show these abominations the true might of our empire. The combined fleet moved as one, human vessels sliding through folded spacetime, while Xeraxian ships provided covering fire. The entities tried to adapt, their forms shifting to counter each new attack, but they couldn't match the speed of organic creative thinking. Now, Chen ordered as the trap was sprung. The quantum resonance cascade began. Xeraxian energy weapons struck precise points in space, creating a lattice of conventional force. The human ship's dimensional anchors activated simultaneously, taking that lattice and folding it through higher dimensions. The effect was beyond anything Krulax had imagined. The entities found themselves caught in a web of transformed spacetime, their ability to exist in multiple states suddenly constrained by the combined power of two civilizations working in perfect harmony. "It's working," Rivera reported, her voice tight with concentration. "Their quantum signatures are destabilizing. They can't maintain coherence in our reality." The massive entity that had mimicked their technology tried to retreat, its form beginning to dissolve as the quantum cascade tore through its stolen understanding of their physics. But the combined fleet pressed their advantage, human and Xeraxian ships moving in patterns that defy prediction. "This is how humanity survived," Chen said quietly, watching as the entities began to disintegrate. "Not by being stronger or more advanced, but by learning to turn our enemies' strengths against them, by being willing to share our knowledge with others, even at the risk of that knowledge being used against us." The battle reached its crescendo as the quantum cascade reached critical intensity. The rifts began to collapse, the entities forced back into their own dimension. Victory seemed within reach, but the cost was becoming clear. "Dimensional anchor stability critical," Webb warned. "The cascade is affecting our systems as well. We need to shut it down, or we'll tear ourselves apart." But before Chen could give the order, sensors detected one final surge of entity activity. The massive mimetic being, in its death throes, was attempting one last attack, a dimensional collapse that would destroy everything in the system. The choice was clear: shut down the cascade and allow some of the entities to escape, or maintain it and risk destroying both fleets to ensure total victory. The decision, when it came, demonstrated why two species working together were stronger than either alone. In the chaos of the moment, as reality itself threatened to unravel, Supreme Commander Krulax and Captain Chen reached the same conclusion simultaneously. It wasn't a choice between victory and survival. It was about finding a third option that only their combined strengths could achieve. "All Xeraxian vessels," Krulax commanded, his voice steady despite the strain. "Redirect your shield harmonics. Channel all power through the quantum field generators the humans provided." Chen's eyes lit with understanding. "Webb, reconfigure the dimensional anchors to use the Xeraxian shields as amplifiers. Rivera, calculate a resonance pattern that will contain the collapse." The massive entity's death throes were creating cascading failures in spacetime, but the combined fleet moved with purpose. Xeraxian ships formed a precise geometric pattern, their shields generating a lattice of conventional energy, while the human vessels used their dimensional technology to twist that energy into shapes that could contain the dimensional collapse. The shields weren't just for defense, Webb realized, watching the pattern emerge. Your Empire's shield technology, it's based on energy phase shifting. Combined with our dimensional manipulation, we create a bubble of stable space-time. Telra finished, her crystalline form glowing with excitement. The entity's final attack becomes its prison. The view outside the ships was beyond description. Reality buckled and warped as the dying entity tried to tear apart the fabric of space, but the combined fleet's efforts created zones of stability within the chaos. The human ship's dimensional anchors, instead of fighting against the collapse, used the Xeraxian shields to redirect its energy, creating a self-sustaining containment field. Field stability at 60% and rising, Rivera reported. The entity's attack is being contained within our shield matrix. More than contained, Chen observed, a note of wonder in her voice. Look at the quantum readings. The tactical display showed something unprecedented. The entity's desperate final attack, trapped within the combined human Xeraxian field, was creating a new phenomenon. The very forces it had tried to use for destruction were being transformed into a permanent barrier between dimensions. We didn't just stop it, Webb breathed, studying the readings. We've created a dimensional scar tissue. This sector of space will be naturally resistant to future incursions. As the entity's energy dissipated, trapped within the field they'd created, the rifts began to seal themselves. Not just closing, but healing, the fabric of space-time becoming stronger than before. Status report, Chen called out, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. All rifts sealed, Rivera confirmed. No trace of entity activity remaining. The containment field is self-sustaining, and Captain, you need to see these readings. The field isn't just stopping dimensional breaches. It's actively strengthening the barriers between realities. Krulax moved to stand beside Chen, his scales shifting colors with emotion. We didn't just survive. We turned their weapon into a shield for future generations. That's what humanity learned after losing Earth, Chen replied softly. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from destroying your enemy, but from transforming their strength into something that protects others. The aftermath of the battle brought more revelations. The combined fleet's actions had created a template for a new type of defense system, one that could be replicated at other dimensional weak points throughout the galaxy. Human dimensional technology, merged with Xeraxian shield harmonics, could create zones of stability that would naturally resist entity incursions. Your Empire's expansion won't have to end, Chen explained during the post-battle conference, but it will need to change direction. Instead of pushing outward, consuming new territory, you can help us establish these protective barriers throughout known space. The silent service doesn't have to stand alone anymore, Webb added. Humanity has carried this burden for 3 millennia. Perhaps it's time for a more collaborative approach to guarding reality. Krulax looked at the star map, seeing his Empire's territory in a new light. Each colony now represented not just a point of pride, but a potential anchor point for the new defense network. The Xeraxian drive for expansion could be redirected towards strengthening the galaxy against extra-dimensional threats. The entities tried to use our cooperation against us, Telray observed. They couldn't understand that by working together, we become more than the sum of our parts. That's the true lesson here, Chen agreed. Humanity hid in the shadows for millennia, thinking we had to bear this burden alone. Your Empire expanded across the stars, thinking strength came from conquest. Both of us were wrong, and both of us were right. True strength comes from knowing when to stand together. As the fleets prepared to depart, their crews forever changed by what they'd witnessed, Krulax found himself thinking about the future. The Xeraxian Empire had gained more than knowledge from this encounter. They gained a purpose beyond mere expansion. Captain, he said formally, I believe this is the beginning of a most interesting partnership. Chen smiled, the weight of centuries seeming lighter in her eyes. Indeed, Supreme Commander, The entities wanted to understand how different species could work together. Let's show them just how much they have left to learn. The Shadowkeeper and the Eternal Conquest moved off in formation, their crews no longer separated by suspicion or pride. Behind them, the newly created dimensional barrier pulsed with stable energy, a testament to what could be achieved when ancient guardians and rising empires chose to face the darkness together. In the depths of space, where reality itself grew thin, humanity's long vigil was finally changing. They were no longer alone in their watch against the darkness between dimensions, and perhaps in this new alliance lay the key to finally reclaiming what was lost so long ago. The Silent Stars had witnessed humanity's greatest sacrifice. Now they would witness humanity's greatest triumph, not in standing alone against the dark, but in teaching others to stand with them.